There are a lot of well-known video games on the Nintendo Entertainment System. Iconic games such as Mega Man, The Legend of Zelda, and Super Mario Bros. All call this system their home. But there's one game for the NES that may fly by people's radars. A game released only in America and Europe in the late 80s, developed by a small company known as Rare Entertainment. That game was Anticipation. In this episode of Cartridges and Consoles, we'll look into this classic party game from the NES and see how it still is a fun game to play with friends today, but also how it's a product of its time and does have its flaws. Anticipation, known as Nintendo's first video board game, is exactly as it says, a video board game. The game itself can be described as a combination of Pictionary and Trivial Pursuit. An object or saying pertaining to a category will be drawn on screen while a dice starts counting down, and it's the job of the player to buzz in and guess what the object is. If you input the wrong letter twice, you're locked out from answering. But if you guess the word correctly, you collect one of 4 colored panels and your pawn moves however much is left on the dice when you answer. Once you collect all 4 colored panels, you then ascend to the next level. Every level has a different category for each colored panel, and the boards on higher levels can have special tiles like feature squares, which allow you to try and time your landing onto a specific space, and trap panels, which will send you down a level if you are to land on them. The first player to collect 4 colored panels on the final level wins the game. Now, if it seems like Anticipation is a very easy game to understand, that's because it is, and it's this simplicity of the game I think is the biggest positive factor. It's one of those simple games that require little to no explanation. Almost anyone can pick up a controller and figure out that they need to identify the drawing or saying on screen. Even the instruction booklet for the game is ridiculously small, with only 6 partially filled pages dedicated to teaching the player how to play, illustrating how easy the game is to learn. This simplicity means no matter your level of video game experience, you're bound to enjoy Anticipation to some degree. Along with this simplicity comes the amount of replayability jammed into the game. Even though there are only 16 categories, matching with the maximum number of 16 colored panels you need to collect on the highest difficulty, the generated categories are random and there are hundreds of prompts to enter, meaning you won't know what to expect when you start up a game. This essence of replayability is enhanced by the ability to tailor the game to your liking via the difficulty. When setting up a game, you can make the game as easy or as difficult as you want. The higher the difficulty, the harder the game. Less hints are given for drawings, and there's a whole extra level to pass through on the 2 higher difficulties. Both of these features make it so no 2 playthroughs of Anticipation are the same, and you will almost always have a unique experience playing the game. However, no game is complete without sounds and music, and the music in Anticipation makes the game stand out even more. The game's music has a very distinct style that wasn't as apparent in video games at the time, and this style contributes to what can be considered one of the most underrated soundtracks on the NES. Take, for example, the music that plays on the Select Player screen. Composer David Wise was able to stretch the limits of the NES's audio capabilities to create a jazzy theme that was hard to accomplish in the 80s. And this song is just one example of many catchy tunes you'll run into in a game of Anticipation. However, with a simple game that is easy to learn and fun to play comes some things that sadly bring down the experience. One major issue with the game revolves around the multiplayer capability. Anticipation allows for a maximum of 4 players, which sounds great, but we're talking about the NES here. The system only allows for 2 controller ports. So with this game releasing 2 years before the NES 4-score, an accessory that allowed for 4-controller play, it meant that to play 4-player Anticipation, 2 players are going to have to share a controller. While I can commend the effort to make the game 4-player in this way, sharing an NES controller is like trying to share a mini Reese's Cup. The controller just feels too small for 2 people to hold at the same time, and if you're not comfortable with sharing a controller with your friends, you're going to have some problems.
Can I just be the 3rd player?
Alongside this multiplayer problem comes some issues with the drawings you have to guess in the game. For one, the answers are either extremely dated, obscure, or make absolutely no sense, and will most likely cause anybody to get stumped. Alongside this, answering the questions takes a bit of getting used to. You have to scroll through each letter individually to choose the one you want, which can be a hassle, especially with longer answers. On top of this, you occasionally can overshoot or undershoot the letter you wanted to hit and cost yourself one of your 2 wrong guesses. Now, don't get me wrong, this interface does work, and if anything, it builds tension when playing the game, but it still is a semi-clunky interface nonetheless.
Overall, Anticipation on the NES was one of the earliest examples of a party game that did it right. It wasn't perfect, and today it clearly does show some of its flaws, but it still is worthy of being considered a classic of the NES. Whether it's during a family gathering or when hanging out with a bunch of friends, everybody will enjoy playing Nintendo's first video board game. Anticipation on the NES gets my rating of 7 cartridges out of 10.